Part 1. The lie that sparked it all. I never meant to lie to Vanessa. It started as a stupid joke, a passing comment at a bar when we first met. She had asked what I did for work, and I tipsy, nervous, and trying to impress her, casually. Sad. I dabble in investing, some real estate, nothing major. I wasn't broke, exactly. I had a decent IT job, paid my bills on time, and had a modest savings account. But I definitely wasn't the kind of guy who owned penthouses or flew first class. Still, something about the way Vanessa's eyes lit up at the mention of investments made me double down. We met at a friend's birthday party at a rooftop bar downtown. Vanessa was stunning. Tall, elegant, with dark curls and a sharp wit that immediately drew me in. She told me she worked in fashion merchandising, traveled a lot, and was sick of broke guys with big dreams and no drive. So, naturally, I panicked. I wanted her to like me. I didn't think it would matter if I inflated the truth a bit. The more we talked that night, the more I leaned into the persona of a low-key successful investor who enjoyed staying under the radar. In Vanessa, she was hooked. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Expensive restaurants, which I paid for with credit cards and the occasional lie about my bank app not working. Uber Black instead of shared rides. Gifting her designer perfume for our 1 month anniversary. I was drowning, financially and emotionally. But every time I thought about coming clean, she'd post something like, "Finally found a man who knows how to treat a woman, hashtag no more UCRUBS," on her story, and I'd convince myself to keep going. She started introducing me to her friends as David, the finance genius. One night she even joked, "If we ever move in together, you better not make me sign a prenup." It was all so surreal. My best friend Caleb warned me repeatedly, "Dude, you need to tell her, like yesterday. This is going to explode in your face." But how could I? We were 3 months in. Vanessa was talking about trips to Paris. She'd started tagging me in posts about dream weddings, and I was still maxing out credit cards just to maintain the illusion. Then came the night that shifted everything. We were at dinner at a place called Marble, one of those upscale fusion places where the appetizers cost more than my weekly groceries. I had planned to break up with her that night, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't afford to keep this going. The guilt was eating me alive, but before I could say anything, she pulled out a velvet box. "I know it's early," she said, eyes twinkling, "but I wanted to get you something." Inside was a Rolex, an actual real Rolex. I knew because I once spent 6 hours watching watch comparison videos while procrastinating at work. This thing cost more than my car. "Vanessa, this is too much. I stem me red. She leaned in, grinning. "I just wanted to show you I appreciate you. Most guys expect women to do all the emotional labor. You make me feel secure, safe, like I finally met someone on my level." I wanted to throw up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, Rolex on my nightstand, stomach twisted in knots. I had to fix this. But how? Admit I was a fraud. Risk losing her entirely? The next morning, I called Caleb. "You still have that Craigslist gig with the fancy house staging photos?" He sighed. "Yeah, why? I need a favor." That weekend, I invited Vanessa to my place. In reality, it was a staged property Caleb had access to, a sprawling 2-story with minimalist decor, and a pool. I told her I was doing some short-term renovations and didn't want to live there until it was perfect. She loved it. Took dozens of selfies. Posted videos of us sipping wine by the pool with captions like, "Sunday vibing with Bay at his hideaway." I was in too deep now. That lie spiraled into more. I told her my family had money tied up in overseas investments, that I preferred not to talk about finances because real wealth doesn't flaunt. And Vanessa, she believed every word, but she also began to change. Subtly at first, she started suggesting I buy her things. That purse would look so good with my outfit Friday. Just saying. She talked about quitting her job to focus on our future. Mentioned friends who were getting married and how she didn't want to waste time playing house. She even asked about joining our finances. I stalled, of course, said I was restructuring some accounts. Then, one day, she showed me a house listing on her phone. Babe, this is only 30 minutes from downtown. 4 bedrooms. A walk in closet, big enough for both of us. Imagine our life there. It looks nice, I said carefully. Well, I already booked a viewing for next weekend. I told the agent you might want to pay in cash. I choked on my coffee. Cash? Vanessa? Don't worry, I told him you're private about your wealth. I just wanted to get the process started. That night, I drove home to my real apartment with its secondhand furniture and drafty windows and stared at my reflection. In the cracked bathroom mirror, this wasn't just a lie anymore. It was a fantasy she'd fully bought into. And it was growing teeth. I had to tell her. I would tell her. Next weekend, after the house viewing. But then she did something I never expected. She brought her parents at the viewing. She waltzed in with her mother and father trailing behind, beaming like they'd already moved in. Mom, Dad, this is David, the one I've been telling you about. Her dad clapped me on the back. I heard you're quite the mogul. Vanessa always did have a good eye. I smiled weakly. The ground swaying beneath me. Her mom pulled me aside, while Vanessa and her dad toured the upstairs. We're so happy she found someone grounded. Not many young men are as successful and humble as you. Thank you, ma'am, I murmured. Stomach in knots. She smiled warmly. We were wondering, have you thought about proposing? And just like that, I realized I was no longer in control of this narrative. I had built a castle of lies. And the walls were starting to crack. Part 2. Caught in the web. The morning after our extravagant dinner at Laram felt surreal. I woke up in Emily's apartment, a sleek, minimalist place in the heart of the city with the vague hangover of too much wine and far too many lies. The hum of traffic below mingled with her soft breathing beside me, her face peaceful and content. She had no idea her boyfriend wasn't who he claimed to be. I stood, trying not to wake her, and made my way to the kitchen. Her place screamed well off, marble countertops, imported espresso machine, smart lights. This was the kind of life she was used to. I didn't belong in it, but I had told her I did. The lie had started innocently. I was a bartender in a high-end downtown lounge, just making ends meet and saving a bit here and there. Emily had wondered. In one evening with a few coworkers, all glossy and laughing and clearly from money. I served her a cocktail she didn't order but loved, and she smiled like it changed her whole week. We started talking, and instead of saying, yeah, I'm a bartender, I said, I manage investment portfolios. Just helping out here for the experience. I don't know why I said it. I think I wanted to impress her. Or maybe I was afraid I'd never get to talk to someone like her again if I didn't pretend to be someone else. She liked the lie. She liked me. And the more she liked me, the more I had to double down. So when she asked about where I lived, I described my condo in a trendy neighborhood, a studio apartment. I'd clean top to bottom for the one time I invited her. Over. When she asked what car I drove, I mentioned the Tesla I had left with my brother while I traveled. She never questioned it. Why would she? I dressed the part, talked the talk. I knew just enough about investing to bluff through surface level conversations. And Emily was busy law firm. Life didn't leave much time for deep inspections. But lies rot from the inside. They don't stay quiet. That morning, while sipping her imported espresso, I saw the first crack. Emily walked into the kitchen in one of my shirts, sleepy but smiling. So, she said, wrapping her arms around me, you remember how I said, my dad's firm is looking for someone to manage their emerging markets division? My stomach dropped. Yeah. Well, I talked to him about you. He wants to meet. I think this could be huge for you. I almost dropped the espresso. I forced a smile. That's incredible. She beamed. He's hosting a private yacht party this Saturday. Very low-key. Just come, relax, and we'll introduce you properly. I told him a little about your work. He's really impressed. A yacht party. A yacht. I didn't even own a decent pair of loafers. That I nodded slowly, thinking fast. I'd love that. Perfect, she chirped. We'll go shopping this week. You'll need something Armani, probably. She walked away humming, and I stood there drowning. I called Marcus the second I stepped outside. Marcus was my best friend, also a bartender, also broke, also one of the few people who knew the truth. I need a miracle, I told him. He laughed. She found out? No, worse. She thinks I'm meeting her billionaire dad this weekend on a yacht to discuss a job I'm not qualified for, based on a fake identity I made up over cocktails. A long pause. Dude, just come clean. I can't. Not now. She she likes me. I think she might even love me. If I tell her the truth now, I lose her. Or Marcus said, you keep lying and lose her worse? But I wasn't thinking straight. I was thinking about Armani suits and champagne flutes and yacht parties and Emily. So I did what any panicking man would do. I sold my vintage guitar, my most prized possession, and used the money to rent a suit, shoes, and even a watch that screamed old money. I found a personal stylist online who could prep me on mannerisms, basic yacht etiquette, and how to talk about emerging markets without sounding like a fraud. Marcus thought I was insane. This is going to explode in your face. I knew he was right. But I showed up that Saturday on the marina, dressed to the nines, holding Emily's hand like I belonged. The yacht was obscene. 3 levels, marble floors, a grand piano. There was even a private chef making lobster rolls on demand. Emily glided through the space like royalty. Everyone knew her. Everyone loved her. Then she introduced me to him. Richard Halberd, CEO of Halberd and Co. Net worth $2.1 billion. According to a quick Google search I did in the Uber, he shook my hand with practiced indifference. So, you're the young investor I keep hearing about. I laughed lightly. Trying my best. I'd like to hear your thoughts on Southeast Asia's volatility. He said, I choked on my mimosa, but I recovered, pulling phrases from the stylist crash course. I think markets are reactive to sociopolitical uncertainty, but there's long-term promise, especially in green tech sectors. Vietnam showing signs of resilience. He nodded slowly. We kept talking. I dodged deeper questions, pivoted to broader economic principles. I told half-truths, repeating things I'd overheard in the bar. I smiled. I joked. I performed and somehow, miraculously, I survived by sunset. Richard clinked his glass and said, You're sharp. You should come by the office next week. Emily squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. I smiled like I wasn't dying inside. Part 3. The cracks began to show. By the time a month had passed, the weight of my lie had become something I lived with every day. On the outside, everything looked golden. Bianca was thrilled to be dating a man with prospects, and I played the part like my life depended on it. In a way, it did. Because the moment she found out the truth, I knew it would all fall apart. It started with little things. Bianca had this way of casually dropping expensive suggestions into conversations. You know what's always been on my bucket list? A weekend in Aspen. I've always wanted to try skiing. I'd smile, nod, and say something like, We'll plan that soon, praying she'd forget. But she didn't. She started bringing it up again. And again. Like it was a reasonable expectation. I couldn't afford. Aspen. I couldn't even afford a weekend in a cheap motel 3 counts over. My savings were already depleted from the designer bag I'd bought her for her birthday, charged to a credit card I had no business using. And that was just the beginning. She began introducing me to her friends, not as my boyfriend, but as Daniel, the guy in tech. He's already had some exits. Her friends looked at me like I was a unicorn. I could see it in their eyes, the calculation, the assumptions, the expectations. I was supposed to be one of those young millionaires, charming and mysterious, on the verge of the next big thing. I tried to play along, but the questions came fast. What startup were you with before? You invest in crypto too. Where do you summer? Where do I summer? I lied. Again and again. Told them about fake companies, fake investors, fake travel. The web I spun became more complex each time. I had to keep a spreadsheet on my phone just to remember which lies I'd told to which people. But Bianca never seemed to doubt me. If anything, she became more invested in the fantasy. She'd send me links to houses listed in the $3 million range, captioned, "One day soon." She started posting more photos of us online, carefully tagged and geolocated in spots that looked lavish. Even when they weren't, it wasn't long before her family got involved. Her parents invited us to dinner at their home, an elegant, sprawling property in the suburbs, complete with a tennis court and live-in help. Her dad was the CEO of a logistics company, old money, big reputation. When we arrived, he greeted me like he was sizing up a rival. "So," he said as we sipped wine on their patio, "Bianca says you're one of those brilliant young tech minds." "What's your angle?" "My angle," I echoed, trying to stall. "What's the hook? You building something to scale and sell? Or just playing the long game with VC cash?" I panicked. I said I was working on an AI platform for behavioral analytics something. Vague but technical enough to sound impressive. He raised an eyebrow, nodded slowly, then started drilling me about monetization strategies and exit plans. I babbled something about seed rounds and burn rate. He didn't look convinced. The next day, Bianca asked, "Why were you acting so weird at dinner?" "You were sweating." "Just nerves," I said. "Your dad's intense?" She smiled, kissed me, and said, "He actually really liked you. He said you reminded him of himself when he was younger." I wanted to scream. The pressure was suffocating. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to find a way out of the lie that had become my entire reality. I thought about telling Bianca the truth, about sitting her down and explaining that I wasn't rich, that I never had been, that I just wanted her to like me, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Every time I pictured her reaction, disappointment, betrayal, anger, I backed away from the thought. Then came the tipping point. Her birthday was approaching again. A full year together. She started dropping hints. No, not hints. Requests. I was thinking we could do something big this year. Like Paris. Or maybe Santorini. Santorini. I laughed awkwardly and said, "That might be a bit much." She tilted her head, confused. "Why? You spent more than that on me before? That bracelet you got me last month." She was talking about the faux Cartier I bought online. "Yeah," I said, clearing my throat. "But that was a one-time thing. Are things okay with your company?" She asked, voice lowering. "You've been acting weird lately." I shook my head. "Just stress. We've got new investors coming in." Lie, another one. She nodded slowly, but I could see the doubt forming in her eyes. That night, I checked my bank account. Overdrawn. The credit card company had frozen one of my accounts. Rent was overdue. I had nowhere left to run. No more cards to shuffle. No more tricks. The next morning, I got a message from Bianca. "Can we talk?" Those 3 words punched me in the chest. I responded, "Of course." "Tonight?" She came over after work, face serious. She sat on the couch and didn't touch me, didn't even smile. "Daniel," she said softly, "are you really who you say you are?" My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a document, printed emails, credit card statements. "I found some things," she said. "This isn't adding up." I stared at the pages. My brain screamed to lie again, to spin a story, to do anything but admit defeat. But I didn't. I looked at her, really looked at her. And then I told her the truth. All of it. How I'd lied about being rich to impress her. How it spiraled. How? Every word after the first was a performance I couldn't stop. She listened. She didn't say a word. When I finished, the silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then, finally, she stood up. "I need to think," she said, voice trembling. I can't believe you lied to me for this long." "I know," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." She walked to the door, then paused. "Ego hurts the most?" I would have liked you anyway. And then she left. Part 4. Repercussions. The silence after. Bianca left my apartment was the loudest sound I had ever heard. The door's soft click might as well have been an explosion. My entire body was numb. I sat on the couch, still staring at the empty space where she'd stood, replaying her final words over and over. You know what hurts the most? I would have liked you anyway. It was a dagger, a truth I hadn't prepared for. I had spent so long constructing a version of myself that I thought she could love, only to find out she might have loved the real me if I'd only had the guts to show him. But now it was too late. The fallout came fast. That night I didn't sleep. I tried texting her apologies, explanations, please, but got no response. Her social media went dark. Mutual friends messaged me asking what happened. I ignored them all. Then the humiliation started. I had underestimated how connected Bianca really was. Within days, rumors spread. First in whispers, then in public posts. People in her circle started calling me out fraud, pathological liar, gold digger in disguise. One of her friends made a TikTok that went viral, an animated retelling of our relationship titled, I dated a fake millionaire. My face wasn't shown, but the details were unmistakable. At work. My manager called me into his office. Daniel, I don't care what's happening in your personal life, he said, looking uncomfortable. But this media attention, it's distracting. Clean it up. I tried to explain. He didn't want to hear it. My hours were cut the next week. Marcus, the only person who had known the full truth from the beginning, tried to help. You need to get out of here for a bit, he said. Come stay with me for a while. Clear your head. So I did. I packed a duffel bag and left my apartment behind. Rent was 2 months overdue anyway. At Marcus's place. I slept on his futon and spent my days job hunting. My inbox was flooded with rejection emails. The lie had crept into everything. My references were questioned, my credibility shattered. But the worst part wasn't the career fallout. It was waking up every morning and remembering she was gone.